So in this last video, I'm going to address the very end of the Queen's speech, and then I'll talk about how to put all of these notes together to come up with a rhetorical analysis about her speech. So this final, I guess, penultimate, second to last line is really important, and I'm going to repeat it. We should take comfort that while we may have more still to endure, better days will return. We will be with our friends again. We will be with our families again. We will meet again. So we have these devices of repetition, parallelism, and a list. And then I think also this idea of we, right? Many speakers use this to kind of say we're all in it together, to emphasize unity, that the speaker, the queen, even though she's the figurehead, that she is part of the people and kind of the person to unify them. So I think you can talk about the way that she constructs the syntax of this speech to emphasize her message. So now that we've done kind of a run through of our first read, you want to be thinking about focused notes. So how do we put everything together and go deeper into our analysis? So these are the questions I usually like to start with. Who is speaking? Well, yes, it's Queen Elizabeth II, but how does that speaker's ethos inform the rhetorical situation? So I'm just going to take a couple of brief notes. I could go into more detail, but I'll have you do that in your assignment. So we have the Queen. She's Britain's longest reigning monarch. I think something that's important is she served in the military and kind of experienced the challenges of World War II, which was another crisis situation. I think that she's kind of like simple and strong, and people see her as this sort of grandmother for the nation. So I'm going to put a matriarch. She really speaks from experience there. And her ethos informs this rhetorical situation because I think people feel like they can depend on her. She's a stable person. She is inspiring. She's encouraging. And she's a good person to sort of give this message of unity. So who's the speaker addressing? It's interesting here that she's really addressing the British or the United Kingdom for most of the speech. But then she opens it up to the Commonwealth and the whole globe. And really that's because she is a major global figure. And she is really speaking to the whole world, even though she's also focusing on these specifically British elements that we mentioned earlier of like fellow feeling, of good humored, quiet resolve. So I think that that's something that you can talk about with audience. I think she's also speaking in very kind of simple, powerful diction because she has such a global audience. Like this language is sophisticated, but not so elevated that someone who wasn't super educated couldn't understand it, right? Like this is a message that even a child can hear and get it. So that's something I might talk about too. And then I would also talk about some sort of like unity together. What is the speaker's message? I think that's clear is she acknowledges the challenge and pain we're all going through, and then she thanks essential workers and then pivots to saying how we can unify and do the right thing, which is to stay at home. And if I were going to talk about literary rhetorical devices, I might talk about diction, I might talk about repetition, parallelism, I think